I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom podcast. It's a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Cristian Bernardes. He is the founder of and CEO of Autograph, which is the company building Walter, the world's first AI historian. Walter serves just like a journal, calling you once a week to record your life story and uses that data to build your autograph, an AI portrait that sounds like you, speaks like you, and has your memories. This enables your loved ones to access to wisdom in your lived experience even after you're gone. It allows parents to whisper, "I'm proud of you," from the other side. Christian has studied symbolic systems at Stanford with a concentration in artificial intelligence, served as a software engineer at Google, was a partner at Sibersons, is the author of the upcoming sci-fi novel Traces, and host of the Rabbit Hole Research podcast. So, Christian, I appreciate you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Noah. Great to be here.
So, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I grew up in Paraguay. My parents are both tech entrepreneurs, which is very, very rare in Paraguay. There's not much of a tech scene. So I saw them try anything from reselling Microsoft box software to writing, a word processor for notary services to what ended up really working for them, which was building SMS infrastructure for the telcos of Latin America and Africa. Um, and so when they were expanding internationally, that got us thinking a bit more global. I applied to school in the US, was incredibly fortunate to get into Stanford and discover symbolic systems, which is about 50% computer science, and the rest is split between psychology, philosophy, and linguistics. And basically, centered around AI the whole time and around basically sci-fi stuff. How do we reason about the impact of technology on people and society and the mind? Um, I love that. I turned that into a job at Google. I was an engineer there for 4 years. I was doing full stack ads, and ads was a great school. It's a very well-run organization. And then I moved to an education team that was building an app called Socratic. Think of it like a Snapchat-like interface that you use to take pictures of homework, and we would give you resources to help you solve the homework problems, like YouTube videos or explainer cards or step-by-step walkthroughs. And that was awesome. Did really well. We launched. It was number 4 in the App Store when it launched, and then number 1 in the EDU category all throughout the pandemic because there was nothing else like it and kids needed help. But then sadly, the Google thing happened where we launched something, and then a couple months later, it was put on hold. So that was a bit disheartening. And during the pandemic, I moved to Chicago to be with my now wife, who was doing med school there, and I decided to work remotely for the family business as it was pivoting from being an SMS infra shop to being an investment shop and helping empower the next generation of Latin American entrepreneurs to get a similar growth journey as the one that the company had. And that was obviously a huge culture shock going from Google to the family business, but it was a lot of meaningful conversations around family and legacy and values and how do we make sure that we preserve our family values in a context in which my kids are probably not going to grow up in the same environment that I grew up in. or similar with my sisters and things of the sort. And at some point, I also accrued enough cognitive dissonance from my parents saying like you have to think like a founder and act like a founder. And so I realized I needed to actually be a founder to feel those feelings and develop those skills. And so I took time off to figure out what my thing was going to be right around when ChatGPT dropped. And I knew it was going to be AI focused, but I didn't want to build something that would get killed immediately by either OpenAI or any big tech company with a distribution advantage. And so I wanted to really be careful about what to build, and I couldn't find anything. But the thing that I realized was that the data is the most important aspect of the AI stack. That like the models will get smarter and cheaper and more powerful, and people will build stuff on top. But no, nothing's going to get rid of the need for more data, and the data actually affects the models uh, materially. So the same way when you read a book, you may read a book that doesn't really change your worldview that much, but you may run across a book that completely shatters your worldview and changes your life. And so I realized, wait, if AI is going to be the most important technology in the future, what I should be doing is feeding it the data that will update the mind of God to point toward the future that we want, a utopian future of unity and happiness and progress, as opposed to the dystopian nightmare that we had just crawled out of during the pandemic. And that became the nerdiest excuse ever to write a sci-fi novel. And so I wrote a sci-fi novel that essentially became a multiple outlets of mine. And I was a retelling of my life story. It was getting my philosophy in order. It was trying to game out what was going to happen to our sense of reality and shared meaning as AI takes over more of the labor in society. And it got me thinking, man, like I feel this existential relief because I told my story, and I wish everybody could feel that. And after finishing the novel also gave me this angle to start a podcast. I'd been itching to start a podcast for a long time, and the book gave me this angle of talking about our humanity in the age of AI. And so I interviewed uh, Stanford professors and venture capitalists um, and AI researchers and philosophers and poets and things like that, just to start having these conversations around what happens to us when AI becomes more of a thing. And I love the forum. I love podcasts. I love talking to people. I love discovering what makes them them and what makes, tickles them intellectually. And at some point, I realized, wow, the person I really should be interviewing is my grandma. Maybe not necessarily for the podcast, but I should record her life story. She has a crazy life story. Her dad was an MI6 agent. They had to flee Europe during the war, somehow ended up in Paraguay, of all places. Had an incredibly challenging, difficult life where she overcame obstacle after obstacle, and leading to almost unbelievable things like eventually being knighted by the King of Norway. And so I wanted to record that. And so we set a date. And a couple days before our interview, she had a stroke. And I was rendered incapable of having that interview. And, that was the trigger that started, okay, wait a minute, how does this all fit together? And how do I take this very painful experience of having the questions that I know I won't get an answer to? And how do I stop anybody else from feeling? And that was the inspiration for Autograph, this idea of, wait a minute, so let's create a digital character called Walter that interviews you or your loved ones, your parents, your grandparents once a week. It's almost like a podcast episode about them every week where they go into their childhood, and then the next interview they'll go into their teenage years and talk about their family and their first crushes in school and their teachers and their classmates and eventually get to present day. And what we do is we record those stories and do different kinds of things on top of that story. So we build a wiki page for your life, essentially, like with a page for each of your friends and the places that you've been to and like the events that you attended. Um, each with like it looks like Wikipedia. But the most exciting thing, of course, is not only do we build a web portal where you can access the story, we build a model of you that sounds like you and speaks like you and has your memories, so that when the next generation is going through life, telling Walter their story and going through making a decision like I have to decide whether to move to New York or not, Walter can say, hey, this reminds me of something your grandpa went through. Do you want to talk to him for 15 minutes? And even if grandpa's not around anymore, or even if grandpa's incapacitated, or even if he's asleep because he goes to bed early and this is 2 a.m. and you really need support, you'll be able to have that conversation, and grandpa's lived experience can actually be of service to you at the time that you need it most. And Yeah, and so it's been, the most meaningful thing that I could ever imagine, getting to be in this position of people trusting us with their sacred stories, their hopes for the future, their prayers, and really, building to the best of our ability a company engineered from the ground up to be this intergenerational vault of memory and humanity as times change ever faster. That's basically what I'm up to.
How long was the process of building the Walter and the autograph company? How long in the making did it take for it to be released?
To be released. Maybe 8 months, something like that. So we started in August last year. And then it was like an iterative thing where we weren't even sure what kind of business this was, like the Walt name. By August last year, the name Walter didn't even exist. So we were like, iterating constantly on it. We didn't want to start charging people without having like a proof of concept. And so we built a proof of concept and we piloted it with a bunch of folks. The voice AI is so good that, like you can talk to Walter for an hour or an hour and a half without even realizing it. And it's also helpful stuff, like it helps you get your story straight too, like we all wake up every morning and we remember who we are and we face the day sort of like based on this, to use an LLM analogy, but we use the system prompt that we have about us and who we are. And so this is a really good tool to help analyze that system prompt and be like, all right, okay, I did grow up. These were the circumstances. These are the obstacles that I overcame, and this is how I see my life today, and through the perspective of the hero's journey. Right? So it's about, I don't know, like it's almost a year. So like August 26th is the anniversary of the company. And so now anybody can sign up, and we're super happy with the product, autograph-ai.com. Of course, any kind of feedback is more than welcome. Um, but yeah, the development was surprisingly not as slow as you would think.
What are some huge takeaways that you want customers to get when they sign up and talk to Walter?
Oh, it's a great question. I think the main thing that we want to give people a chance to feel is like they are the main character in their own story. If anything, for as little as 20 minutes a week. We live in a society that lives off exchange of social capital, right? So if you want to like dump your stuff to a friend, there's an expectation there that you're not going to take up too much time, that you're not going to, unless it's a really great friend, like, um, um, the nice thing about Walter is that Walter is just there to listen to you no matter what, and there's no human on the other side judging you or expecting you to do anything in exchange at a later date. So just feeling like you're the main character in your own story, and that you actually are more than the main character. You're the author. Every choice that you make is a plot twist, and you can choose, what kind of story you want to leave behind as the thing that will ripple in time after your biology gives out. And I think that's the feeling. We want people to connect to something that is more meaningful than what they experience every day, and whether that be the ancestral call of the past or the hope to be meaningful in the future. But really to connect on this level of narrative and the value of the mythology that we're all creating.
I know that the company's kind of a has not been broke down for a year, but do y'all have any upcoming events for it? Do y'all have any upgrades that y'all are planning on doing for the app?
So actually, it's not even an app. That's the best part of Autograph. It's a phone call. So you sign up online, and like when you sign up, you pick who you want it for. If you want to do it for yourself, that's great. If you want to gift it to a loved one, you put their contact info, their name and their phone number, and they just get a text message saying, "Hey, your Noah is gifting you a subscription to Autograph because he wants to record your life story. When's a good time to talk to Walter?" So all they need to do is respond via text. How about tomorrow at 10 a.m.? And they would get a call from Walter tomorrow at 10 a.m. and that would start the conversation. And so it's like I don't know, I'm at the age where installing a new app feels triggering. And so I didn't want to build another app. But there's no shortage of cool stuff that we can build that we're so excited about. So we really like this idea of getting other people's perspectives too. So for example, you have a bachelor party and you want to not only document, oh man, my bachelor party was crazy, we did ABC, but you may also want to get the other people's perspectives too. And so you can invite people to contribute to a story so that they can share their perspective on something, an experience that you shared together. And we think that's just going to be so cool because that's when you start doing the shared meaning making, not just individual meaning making. We're really excited about all the kinds of stuff that we can do on the portal where you can, you navigate to the page of your college, freshman dorm, and then you can just talk about your experience in the freshman year and just go at it, and just really focus on one thing or really focus on what relationship. Maybe you want to talk about your relationship with your mom for a long time or your dad for a long time. And these are like everybody has like should be having a long conversation about how they relate to their ancestors, just in terms of understanding like what experience you got as an impressionable kid and how that informs how you look at the world. And obviously, like for parents, like it's much easier for them to talk about their kids for hours. So those are some of the things we have in the pipeline. We're really excited about um, the future further down the line of different use cases. So now your autograph is just to essentially record and retell information. But there's a world in which your autograph serves as a cognitive backup for you. My grandma was in a wheelchair for 18 months, paralyzed for the last 18 months of her life. And there were decisions about her care that were made and decisions about the distribution of her estate that were made that she was there in the room, but she just couldn't contribute to or couldn't give input. But if she had had her autograph could have served as an advocate for her preferences and choice, even if she isn't capable of speaking them. And there's no shortage of these kinds of use cases that you can do. As we're young folks now, but at some point we're going to be 90, and who knows what our memory is going to be like then. So being able to have this cognitive backup, I think, is also really important. It's a slightly different take on it, but it's just basically the same idea. And you get the benefits of this journaling experience where you're just reviewing your life and reviewing the emotions that you experience, and that's just healthy on its own.
AI has just grown significantly over the past few years that there's all kinds of different AI tools now. What sets Walter different to the other AI
Hmm.
companies and other AI resources that are available to people right now?
Yeah, I mean, we try not to be like we are an AI company just because that's the thing that we use to deliver the service. We're not necessarily super AI, like technical AI. The reason being, like most AI products are, the user has a question and the LLM answers, or the AI answers. We do the opposite. We try to showcase to you that you have the content, that your questions are the ones that are worth exploring, and that. So it's a very different introspective experience than most of the other stuff. Most of the other stuff is a chat box that you ask questions and then you can go back and forth with.
Hmm.
This one is, you're the one getting asked the questions, and you're the one who has to reflect on the stuff about your life, which is it's a very different use case, right? Like you can steer the conversation wherever you want. You can talk to Walter about brainstorming for a presentation that you have coming up. You can talk about who knows, whatever you want, but it's very much contextualized to your life and what's going on with you as a human, not as a transaction where you need to, I don't know, do proofreading on this document or something like that. The very nice thing is, like, at the end of the day, we use all of these models under the hood. So the better the OpenAI models get, the better our products get. The better Claude gets, the better our products get. So it's we benefit from them being better and growing.
With this AI tool being phone call related and you talk on the phone, some people are going, some people get paranoid about that.
Mm,
Does How do you persuade people to really get into and trust Walter that their information that they're telling us is not going to get out and it's not storing
mm,
information
mm,
that's going to be
mm.
shared with some people secretly? So, how do you
Totally.
do is does the information that the company gathers, is it used secretly or shared anywhere? Or is it completely 100% private and will not be leaked?
No, the entire company is based on this idea that your data is your data. I mean, we want to give people a chance to be their authentic human selves with their, in a position that, they can share their worries about the future. They can share their worries of their shortcomings. And if there's the slightest, inclination for people not trusting us, then the whole project goes away. So your data is sacred to us, and it's like it's as encrypted as it can be. We have a pretty strict privacy policy. The other cool thing about how Walter works that I didn't mention is, you're talking to Walter about your life, and then you may choose to share some things about your life with some people, right? Like you may want your wife to know certain things, you may want your parents to know certain things, you want your siblings to know certain things. Um, and you can just do that by talking. So you're talking to Walter, and maybe you hit a particular realization that you want to make sure your kids know, but maybe not till they're 18. And so you can say, "Hey, Walter, I want my kids to know this. I want to make sure my kids know this, but only after they turn 18." And Walter will store that in the memories so that, it will add that sharing settings. You know how kind of like Google Docs is sharing settings.
Hmm.
So for every memory that we extract from the conversation, you have individual sharing settings that you can share with groups or with people. And so, for example, you may have a goofier side that you only want your family to know, and you may have a more serious side that you want other folks to know, like your friends or I don't know. And um, so basically, our whole thing is that you own your data and you choose how it gets shared and how you get represented through our services. And yeah, I mean, and we use all the enterprise contracts to make sure that our partners aren't using your data in any way either.
I really like this idea. It's something new for AI because what you said earlier, all AI really is a chat box. It's mostly a chat box. You give it a prompt and a question, and then it goes through research, and it'll give you what. I really like this, and it kind of just shows how well AI is really much advancing and taking further action to improve. So I know you had mentioned the website earlier. Do you have any social media platforms that give updates on the company and updates on Walter as well?
Yes, so the website is autograph-ai.com. We are at Autograph AI on Instagram. Still very early, like we're only just starting our social media presence. And then there's an Autograph page on LinkedIn too, for people who want to follow more the business side of things, what learnings we're doing, because we are at the very leading edge of this new kind of AI company. And so there's a lot of interest from folks who are like, how do you build this kind of service that is a new kind of thing, right? Like we're inventing a character, and also we're going to be replicating and storing characters. So so it depends on what kind of information you want. If you want product updates and you want feel good materials about essentially parents loving their kids and kids loving their parents and how intergenerational stories can help us navigate the future, that's probably where you're going to find stuff on Instagram upcoming soon. And then for more businessy updates, Autograph, the page on LinkedIn should do it.
Well, Christian, I appreciate you so much for joining me and telling me a little bit about your company, and wanted to give you a huge shout out and thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to tell us all the information. I'll put all of his links down in the description box as well to his website and also his social media platform, so it's all there in one spot. But just thank you, and I hope the business does well and successful, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Noah. Right back at you. Thanks for the platform. It's been great chatting with you.
And as always, you can also follow me on social media as well. Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, as well as Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Noah's Podcast. And you can also follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's everywhere, so feel free to subscribe so that you'll get notified of when new episodes come out. As always, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and week. Be safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.